This is Tracy, and this is Traces of Inspiration. I wanted to take the time out to share my testimony. Um, I am a registered nurse, and the journey was not an easy one to get to. And I would like to share this story because I want to encourage someone who is in the midst of pursuing, whether it's nursing, whether it's artistry, whether it's music, whether it's law or whatever you're trying to pursue. I'm encouraging you to not give up. Um, so, a bit of my story is that I started to pursue nursing in high school. And during that time, it was one of those like practical nursing programs. And, like I knew, okay, I want to be a nurse. Transitioning from that, I went on to college, and at the college level, it was to become a registered nurse. During that time, a lot of things did happen. I had my first loss of my cousin who died at the age of 17. I had an aunt who I was just really close to who passed away. So during that time, I was grieving. The loss of these loved ones, but ultimately still trying to find myself, still trying to find my footing. Coming from, I mean, I see it as the hood a little bit, but coming from a place like where, of a lower socioeconomic status, not having the proper education of like knowing how to like study and all these different things or whatnot, I came into an environment where it's like large classes. Um, a new place where I don't have my family, as my ultimate support system, but trying to find my way. I ended up, flunking out of nursing school. It was very devastating for me because in my head, I'm like, God, you showed me I'm supposed to be a nurse. Like, I know that that's what I'm called to do. Like, that's a part of my purpose. That's a part of one of the things that I'm assigned to do here on earth. But it just seemed like nothing was really adding up with that. Um, I ended up pursuing the route of being a therapist. Now, um, I don't regret that route because it's a part of who I am. It's something that flows and it comes naturally to me. But I just knew that, okay, my passion is still to be a nurse. So, fast forwarding, I got my degree, I got my master's in social work, and I was just grateful because I was just like, okay, God, maybe, the nursing route is not for me because I flunked out and I failed and it didn't work out. But God led me to revisiting nursing school all over again. And this time, I thought on the scale of like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna just get my associates in nursing, at a community college because um, it would just be 2 years. I already have like, my bachelor's, my master's, so surely, things will work out for me. When I got into the program, things were flowing, things were going well. But then when it got to the clinical piece, I flunked out. This time around, I end up very depressed. I I felt like giving up. I felt like losing hope because I'm just like, God, here we go again. I'm trying to pursue nursing. I know this is what you promised me. I know that this is what you told me. But everything seems to like be opposing or fighting against me when it comes to this. So I gave up on it. Um, I gave up on it because I was just like, surely like nursing don't want me. That it was just something that I desired or something that I was just trying to pursue out on my own. But God, but God. So just at one of my regular checkups, my doctor, she's a nurse practitioner, and she saw me. Around that time, I was really low because my mom recently passed away, And I was just like grieving the loss of my mom passing away. I was grieving the loss of my relationship, a person who I was with for a couple of years that, I ended up finding out that, he decided to like marry somebody else. So he was cheating on me. That was devastating. And just around that time too, I was laid off from my job that I was working for quite some time. So for me, I'm just like, dang, all these different losses, all these different things that's happening in my life. And I'm just trying to keep things together. But I was just depressed. And it was just like, God, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to turn from here. I'm functioning. Like, literally, I'm just moving along. But there wasn't really anything that was like purposeful. So I felt, or so I thought at the time. But anyway, so at this particular doctor's appointment, my doctor, she was just like, Trace, I see so much for you. Like, I see you being a nurse. Like, have you ever, like, I've never shared the story with her, but she was like, have you ever considered being a nurse? Have you ever saw yourself being a nurse? And I just stayed silent. I didn't even, go into my story. I didn't share, like what happened throughout life, or, what led me to where I was. But I just listened and I obeyed. So she was like, well, we're starting this new program and I'm going to be teaching at the school. And I feel that you'll be a great candidate. I am employing you and I'm encouraging you to apply for this nursing program. Fill out the application and just see where it leads from there. Now, for me, I was kind of defensive because I was functioning from that energy of like, God, not this again. Like 2 times ago, it didn't work out. And now, like, I don't want to be disappointed again. I mean, I know what you promised me, but once again, it just seemed like nursing didn't want me. So, still, with my reluctance, I applied for the program and I was called in for an interview. And I shared, my a part of my testimony with them, or like what I've kind of like been through, and telling them that I was open to just trying this out. Lo and behold, I got accepted into the program. Around that same time, I got employed as a counselor, for the school board, to counsel children, and then also like to guide them to like resources as a social worker. And I was grateful for that opportunity. Everything just started to fall into place. While in the program, I'm working full time and I am going to nursing school. It was not so easy. Now, the courses were cool, but then I ended up facing more losses, like more deaths in my family. I dealt with the illness scare, like all these different things were happening while I was pursuing this degree. I finish, right? I complete my courses. I get A's and I think what about 2 B's in, my ultimate program. So I'm succeeding and I'm doing well. Then it comes to the exit exam. I know the material, right? But for some reason, I didn't do so well on the first part of the exit exam. Then I was given yet another opportunity to study and take the exit exam. I didn't do well yet again. At this point, I'm like, God, you brought me this far, God. Daddy, you brought me this far. Yet I'm struggling for something that I know, for something that I know that you called me for something that I know that you've equipped me for. But yet it still, again, seems to be a struggle, seems to be a challenge. It got to the point where they stopped responding, where it was just like, okay, yeah, you've done all that you could do, and there's no other options. Like, that's it. You completed our program, but you can't sit for the board. So I had 2 options. I had the option of accepting what I was told, or I could choose to fight and believe what God told me. And I chose to stand on God's promise. God told me that I would be a nurse, a registered nurse. God told me that He made a way. He prepared a way for me in the desert. God told me that He would provide streams of living water in the desert. Like He told me that He would make a way in the wilderness. I'm sorry. So I had to stand on His word. And it was not easy. And luckily, I had a group of prayer warriors and people who were praying and petitioning for it with me during this time. So I went to them again and said, hey, I would like to take the exit exam. Now, reluctantly, I was given the opportunity to take it again. This time around, I succeeded. Now, the next step was the release of my transcript. It took forever for my transcript to get released. Now, I was frustrated because I'm like, okay, God, the first step is like now I can graduate. I can walk across the stage to graduate. But now my transcript is being withheld in order for me to sit for the state board. So I had a choice again. Do I cower? Do I give up and see it as, okay, this is a sign, surely this is not meant to be? Or do I remember God's promise and keep pushing forward? So I chose to keep pushing forward. And I kept calling the board of nursing. I kept calling the school. I kept calling people, constantly calling, praying, petitioning, calling, declaring like, no, like I know what God has promised me. And this cannot be it. This cannot be the end. Finally, my transcript was released. Then the next step was for me to sit for the board. Now I went in the first time and I failed. I failed. For me, I'm like, here this goes again, God. Like something that you promised me and I'm struggling. And the thing is, like, I was so ashamed because it's like everyone around me knows, or perceive me as being this smart person. And for me, in my head, I'm like, I'm just the smartest person on earth too. But this test kicked my butt. And I decided to, hire a tutor. And during the time of me hiring a tutor, and then also there's a studying system that I utilize. When I was sitting with the tutor, she's like, you know this material, you know this stuff. It's just the way that you're thinking, the way that you're answering the questions. You're adding things that are not there, or you're taking away things that need to be placed there. So I studied some more. I studied some more. I took the test again. I failed. This time around, I got depressed. I was like, God, once again, I'm here again. Here again in this situation where I know that you have promised me. I know that you have led, like literally, I wasn't thinking about nursing no more, God, but you opened the door. You literally opened the segue for me to get back into this opportunity of becoming a nurse. And yet here I'm faced with this obstacle. So the choice was to cower or to stand up to the challenge. So yet again, in the state in which I am, like the third time, you have up to 3 tries to take the exam, and then you have to do like this remedial course. By this time, I was laid off again at my new job. I had to figure out where I was going to live. And this would be the third time, the third attempt that I would have. And I had to say, God, I know what you promised me. I know what you told me. I know what you shared with me. And God, like, this time is it. It has to happen. It has no choice but to happen for me because of what you promised me. So this time around, I went for the state board test. I sat down. I had my prayer warriors praying with me. I studied yet again to the best of my ability. And I stood on something that my cousin told me. My cousin told me to not let a man-made test determine or predict my knowledge that I know. And I stood on those words because I felt stupid. I'm like, dang, people pass this at the first try. You got people passing it at the second try. But yeah, this is a third thing. Like, I'm so used to things coming effortless for me. But this right here was that like thing that was a challenge. But I ended up passing. I end up passing this third time around. I end up getting hired to be a nurse even before I passed the exam. And on top of that, I end up being able to obtain and sustain my housing. There was finances, there was funds that I had withheld or that I wasn't even aware that I needed to get that was backed up that allowed me to stay in the home that I am now. So I'm sharing this to let you know that when God shows you something or when God gives you something, when God opens a door, there will be obstacles. There will be trials in between. But stand fast. Hold on. Don't give up. Even when things look like failure, trust and believe that God is with you, that He is on your side, and He has not brought you this far to leave you hanging, to leave you running dry, to leave you looking like a fool. I'm a registered nurse now. No one can take that away from me. And God allowed it to happen in His timing, His will, His way. The journey was not easy. You know, some things come easy to people, but for me, I, I had to be tested and tried. And I wanted to share this because, sometimes people wonder, like, dang, like, how you still hold up, how you this, how you do that. It's because of God. It's nothing outside of Him. And these situations teach me to like lean on Him or trust Him a little more. So I encourage you that if you're supposed to go out there and be a nurse, do not give up, no matter how many times you have to take the test. If you're supposed to be a lawyer, whatever you're trying to pursue, and you know that God showed you and told you, He never said that it was going to be easy, but He tells us to trust in Him. He tells us to have faith. He tells us to continue to keep going, to move forward. Along the way, He's going to drop gems. He's going to drop pebbles. He's going to drop nuggets that will help you on your journey through. Do not give up. I'm a living testimony of what God can do. And if He can do it for me, He surely can do it for you. Do not lose faith. Know that God is with you. He is on your side and you will prosper. You have victory over your situation, no matter what things look like physically on the outside. Trust what you know to be true spiritually on the inside. God got you. Stand on His word. Have a prayer village of like people who really want it as bad as you want it, who will encourage you in times where you feel weak. Also, be honest with yourself. Be honest with where you are. When things are not going well, it's so important to have a village or have people who you can be vulnerable with. Like, hey, like, I'm not feeling so good. I know what God has promised me, but right now I'm struggling to believe. Like, help me. Those people that will carry you and pray for you and believe and petition and stand in the gap for you. It's so important to have that. And also I employ like to, like always like your church, like staying connected, let them know what's going on. Because when you have a environment or a large amount of people praying for you, it's like constant prayers evading heaven on your behalf. So just stand on that and just know that God is with you and He got you. And the same God that did it for me, the same God that opened that opportunity for me, Tracy, to be a registered nurse, He got you in whatever you're trying to pursue. Don't give up.